We're going to get to Ministry of Health as well as others that you'll be interested in to just make sure that your day is informed, educated, and proper for you. Right now, we're going to be talking to Mr. Mathews Mhuru. He's the country coordinator for the Civil Society Scaling Up Nutrition Alliance. This month, they undertook a 3-day tour of Lunga District in Luapula province to get the first-hand information on the hunger situation in that district. Chilufia will be getting us more information.
Thank you, Judy. Good morning, Mr. Mhuru. How are you doing?
I'm good, Chilufia. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. Good to have you on our program today.
Thank you. It's always a pleasure to be, part of
Morning Live.
On Morning Live.
That's
yeah,
right.
Early start and yeah.
Yeah. All right. So let's talk about your trip to Lunga first of all. We do know that the province had floods,
Yeah.
and a lot of families were affected. Now that obviously the waters are receding, give us an understanding of what the impact that has had on
Yeah.
the people.
Yeah. So Lunga experienced some, very, very bad floods. Were just being, shown by the DC, whose house was also submerged. For him to go to the office, he had to just have a canoe wait for him just by his doorstep, for him to get off the canoe to his just the doorstep of his office and the like. So what that did, it destroyed a lot of crop fields for people. All the maize fields that and cassava fields were destroyed. So people are just left with just a bit of rice that survived the floods. So and what causes these floods is the water channels. So the water channels to Lunga are becoming narrower and narrower. So when we get a lot of rain, then it means that all this water now is pushed to Lunga. Chief Kasoma Lunga, the late, had to even be relocated from his house to a nearby school because it was a little bit higher than their house. So that has caused a lot of just a lot of problems for the people in Lunga. A number of them are food insecure. Mealie meal has to come from, just Samfia, and only a few would have money, would, just pedal to Samfia or maybe pay for a boat to go and get them some food supplies from Samfia. And we're actually happy that there's some support that we've taken there as CSO-SUN. We've managed to mobilize some private sector partners as well as the church.
All right.
To just
before we even get to what you're doing and with the different partners, let's give it a sort of like a human face to exactly what is happening and what you found. For example, how has this affected school-going children?
Yes. So school-going children, so you have to be on a boat to go to school. So if you don't have money,
first of all,
the teacher,
the
children, you need somebody to help you paddle that canoe and take you to school. So that affects, school attendance, and you'd realize that a number of children who are supposed to be in school would not be going to school. They would rather help their parents, maybe look for food or go to fish, and just And I think what was also sad on our part is just the cases of malnutrition are on the rise. There was Child Health Week just, I think, 2 weeks ago, and cases of severe acute malnutrition were very high. And Lunga District, the health facility in Lunga does not have the capacity to treat the severe acute malnutrition. So that's more like what stands between death and life between for a child. So most of the children now have to be referred to Samfia. So just imagine if your parents do not have the means to get you on a speedboat to get to Samfia, it means your parents would have to put you on a canoe.
Which is about how long from Samfia to Lunga?
If you are on a speedboat, it will take you about 2.5 hours. But if you're on a canoe, I'm sure it will take you the whole day. So you are battling for your life and you have to get on this canoe. And chances of a baby or a child just losing their life in transit is very high.
Right, so. And the issue of food security now, we're talking floods submerging crops.
Yes.
From maize to cassava to everything.
Yes.
And so what is happening in regards to food?
Yeah, food, you feel sorry for the people. Some of them have to now move from Lunga mainland to just try to set up some camp on the water and start, fishing, because that would be the only means of them accessing food. So just the little rice that the district has managed to get would be all they would have to survive on, apart from just the relief food that people in Lunga would get from both government and partners such as ourselves, who have taken keen interest in Lunga, because we know that Lunga is coming from a very bad situation. In the 2018-2019 farming season, Lunga had floods again, so there was relief food that was being taken there. So we were expecting that in the 2019-2020 farming season, this would not be the case, but it has continued. So it becomes a very difficult situation for the people living in Lunga.
Right. Speaking of relief, the president did direct the Disaster Management and Mitigation Unit under the office of the Vice President to be on the ground and see how far has this have they helped, and from what you saw, is this help still visible? Yeah.
So the disaster we're very actually happy that the president and the vice president took interest in Lunga and this toured the place and just gave instructions to DMMU to start taking relief food to this area. And what we found on the ground is that, yes, relief food has been taken by the Disaster Management Unit twice, in February as well as end of May. So this relief food was maize and mealie meal. And that has been, our challenge. We've always advised government, in times of severe hunger, when you take maize and you give people mealie meal, it becomes very difficult for them to really have the meals that would meet their dietary needs, because you realize that is just one food that would not that would actually cause the micronutrient deficiencies to the people there. So hence we're not even surprised that the cases of malnutrition are increasing now in the area. So yeah, those are the only 2 times that Lunga District has received support. And I mentioned earlier that we are also just trying to see how we can come in and bring other partners to take interest in just supporting Lunga with relief food, the church, as well as also private sector, to see how they would come in. Because I know we have a population of about 1.5 million people, as reviewed by the Disaster Management Unit, that requires relief food. So there's Western Province, there are some other parts of the country that also experienced some severe cases of flooding, which also affected crop, just production in the country. So, yeah.
All right.
That
so
is
in terms
situation.
of, on Monday we were talking about the food basket that was released by JCTR, and the programs manager we spoke to, said it's gone a little lower. But I mean, when you look at the kind of help that people in Lunga would need, what would that kind of help be, and how sustainable should it be? How sustainable should ensure that it continues to be able to take them far? So
as I indicated, the major cause of the floods that Lunga has kept on experiencing over the years is the water channels. So the water channels are becoming narrower and narrower. So even just for you to get to Lunga, you would have to really navigate. The person who would be, moving you on that speedboat has to really know the area very well. Otherwise, you might get stuck. So there's as part of the solutions, they need to really unblock those water channels. The water channels becoming narrower, they need to be unblocked, even with the next coming rainy season. If the water channels are not unblocked, then Lunga will be flooded again. So, and this is information for us as CSO-SUN. We took interest in Lunga last year, and we had given, the Ministry of Housing and Infrastructure timely advice to just unblock these water channels, because they have been, the cause of floods in Lunga. This was not done then, but we're just hoping that, the solutions can be found. Lunga has got the equipment to unblock these water channels, but they don't have the fuel. So if fuel can be provided, then flooding would not be
can the help you provide go beyond monitoring and seeing issues of nutrition to helping as a private sector, helping with the fuel that these dredgers would need?
So that's what we're actually doing now. We're trying to mobilize partners that can just pool resources and see how this support can go to Lunga, because there are about, I think, 4 channels that have to be unblocked. So bringing all the private sector partners, Lunga would need about, I think, close to 200,000 kwacha just to unblock this. It's a small amount, as per se, but us being non-profit organizations, there are certain times that you might not really have that flexibility in terms of donor funds. You can support with the food, you can, support with advocacy, but going to spend on fuel and other, lines that relate to that, it might become a little bit difficult. So hence, we want to really mobilize support and just bring it to the attention of government to see how, this
can be done.
This can be done.
All right. Quickly, as we wrap up, Mr. Mhuru, I know you're concerned about nutrition, and
yes.
it's important to have a balanced diet. So
yes.
even as help is going to Lunga,
yes.
What recommendations do you have in order for them to have nutritious food and not just maize?
So I think the first step is just reviewing the policy that has to do with relief food distribution at DMMU level, because the number of times we've had interactions with the disaster management unit, and they'll tell us that the maize and mealie meal is what is in the policy. So we really have to review that and start having a response that responds to the dietary needs of the people. What we don't really see is the fact that most of the times when you're taking just one type of food to people who are really vulnerable, you are actually making them more vulnerable. In just the case of Gwembe, when we had some serious food insecurity last year, we found people actually getting ash mixing with mealie meal and giving to their children, and those would have very, very devastating health effects. So coping measures would become very, just compromise the health of the people that would consume these foods if they're just given one type of food, especially mealie meal. So, and some of it is even sold because people would need some bit of income just to find other foods. So we really need to look at having a package that meets the dietary needs of the people. If we can add, yes, the carbohydrates are needed. We need something that would complement to the protein needs and the micronutrients that the populations that are affected by food insecurity would actually benefit from. So that would be really key if we can really look at a package that addresses those.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for coming through to the program.
It's a pleasure.
And we wish you all the best in your work. You're doing a good job.
Thank you very much.
Right. Judy?
An interesting chat you've had, Chulufia, and getting to the center of these issues, going there, as in if you have to, the example he's given of mixing mealie meal and ash, those are the realities of what's happening in our country. And when you look at nutrition, in as much as we love our nshima, what else do you mix it with to make sure that in as much as you just have a little, but that's the minimal is nutritious enough. Very important. Yeah.
Okay, this is Morning Live. We continue on the program. We still have a lot more coming, and we were just speaking to Mr. Mathews Mhuru from Civil Society Scaling Up Nutrition Alliance, and he was talking about their trip to Lunga District in Luapula Province. We'll move on now. Let's get to our next item.
Okay, so welcome to Active Fitness Center. My name's O'Brien Munkombwe. I'm a trainer here as well.